start and finish by introducing ourselves, because that will probably take up the hour. Let's start this way. And
Alright, I'm Sarah Beacon. I have a book called The Complete Ouija Interviews that I produced with a 2009 Xeric grant.
I'm Ed Troy Mormon, and I also won a Xeric grant for the anthology Ghost Comics, which I edited and produced.
I'm Tim Seabird. I had a book from Top Shelf come out a couple of years ago, and I do a series of D&D comics called The Intrepid Readers. I'm currently working on a book about Bigfoot.
I'm Will Duff. I'm on a web series of Ghostbusting 911 with Ice Park City Productions, and pretty much how I'm gonna roll.
yeah, I got an email from you asking where you could park the Ghostbusters car. Was that?
Correct.
What's the story with that?
The Ghostbuster car?
Yeah.
A friend of mine, Scobie over here, who actually built it, it was for a Halloween thing that he went out to do, and he just took his, was it 92 Caprice? 91 Caprice and built it into the Ecto 1C.
Is there anything specific about that car type? Because it's supposed to be like an old-timey ambulance, right?
He modified it, so
Okay.
it's more modern for our show.
I see.
So it takes place after the films. Our web series show.
What is a web series?
It's a Ghostbusters 911. It's
Yeah.
basically if they had franchised out after the films came out, where they would be. And basically, it's like Cops mixed with Reno 911. So we have a camera crew that follows us around while we destroy the town.
How big of an operation is that?
Huge.
Huge.
We're gigantic.
How many people are involved?
How many people? Like thousands, hundreds?
In our project?
Yeah.
Well, we have a cast and crew of about between 25 and 35 people.
Let's talk about the Ouija board book.
Okay.
What was the story behind that?
My older brother was the manager of a youth hostel on Nantucket Island for a couple of years, and I went out to visit him.
Yeah.
The hostel is called the Star of the Sea, and it's in this 200-year-old building that used to be a life-saving station for the ships that crashed on the rocks. And he had a little cabin that was sort of set out from it that we stayed in, and at night the fog would roll in, and he pulled out a glow-in-the-dark Ouija board and a couple of bottles of wine.
Was that your first experience with a Ouija board?
It was. I was raised pretty rabidly Catholic, so I was afraid to touch them for a long time. And so yeah, this was my first time, but it was great. We had so much fun. I mean, the board just flew. Stories came out of it, and I was actually taking notes for most of the time and not actually on the planchette. So when I got home,
with the idea of doing a comic out of it?
not even really. It was after I got home, I was unpacking for my vacation, and I found all the notes and the stories, and they still made me laugh even though I was sober the next day. So yeah. So the first one I made as a little mini comic, and that was probably 2003, 2004. I ended up having 4 mini comics that were about, I don't know, between 20 and 40 pages long. And just recently put them all together along with some little snippets from some shorter conversations that my brother had sent me too. So.
Were you still? How old were you when you first touched the Ouija board?
I mean, seriously, this was only 8 years ago. So yeah, I was approaching 30.
Yeah.
I was an adult.
Still a little terrified by it?
At first, yes.
Yeah.
But the conversations never got scary. Like, for whatever reason, I don't know if it was the combination of people that we had in the room, but anytime the board started sounding like, oh, this is when you're going to die, or we wish you harm, or whatever, my older brother would just be like, okay, goodbye, next person, please.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
it's pretty. I mean, it's pretty lighthearted.
It's very lighthearted. Like, the conversations are very. I mean, this one was a smart ass who told us a very off-color joke.
Yeah.
Mostly we just asked questions about, where they were from, when they died, how they died, and, if they had anything that they wanted to say. And it's more like ruminations about the nature of life than it is about that.
Was there something specific to that location? Or was it easier to summon spirits there?
I'm going to say yes. I mean, I have to, because when I got home, I wanted to do a whole series of them. I live in Chicago, and I wanted to do a whole series of them based in Chicago, and I haven't gotten the board to move at all in Chicago. But a lot of people that I've talked to, like the first couple of mini comics that came out, there was a girl at Atomic Books in Baltimore who wrote a review of them, and she said that the best time she ever had with a Ouija board was in Nantucket. She's like, "What's up, Nantucket? You got a lot of talking dead."
Was it a combination of the people you were doing it with? Also?
I think absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So can you talk about the ghost anthology?
Yeah. I mean, it has. It makes no sense for me to be on this panel. It has nothing to do with actual ghosts.
Okay.
It is basically, it's a really general theme that I wanted artists to interpret in any way they felt like having to do with, going in general directions of loss, things that won't leave you. Nothing like this. This is from Decor, my book of gross and horrible humor comics.
Okay.
I mean, what I could do is more appropriate.
Okay.
Is talk about the best ghost story I ever heard.
Sure.
100% true.
Okay. Should we turn down the lights a little bit?
If you want, it's up to you. Get a movie. So this is all true. This is from a woman who works in my school and from the son of the woman. And this happened in Brooklyn in the 80s. And they moved out of this apartment because there were rats in the cupboard and in the bread and everywhere. Moved to this new place. They have this 1-year-old son. The place is great. It's really cheap, really nice area. Son starts waking up at 3:16 in the morning every single night. Every single night, 3:16 in the morning, he starts crying. And she doesn't know what's going on. She goes into the room and she, one night, looks up and sees a woman there. She flips her shit and she runs out the door and the door locks behind her. And her friend who's in this apartment over, who also is a kid, she runs out. She hears the noise. She's like, "Whoa, what happened? What happened?" And she goes, "I saw a ghost." The friend goes, "Cool." And so the lady, she goes to the landlord the next day, and she goes, "Who lived in the apartment before us?" And the landlord was like, "Well, there was that Polish couple. Before that, there were those faggots. They were loud. Before that, there was that old lady. She died. That was awful." And she goes, "So, how did she die?" It's like, "Oh, it was just terrible. And we found it like 2 weeks later. And, it stank. Yeah, it's awful." So she's trying to figure out what to do. Her son's still waking up. 3:16 every morning, terrifying. And she talks to her friend. They get the idea to just go in. They get an exorcist. They try candles. They try incantations. And the friend gets the idea to just talk to her, ask her to leave. So one day she goes in there and she says, "Excuse me, I'm sorry. I know you think this is your home, but you're disturbing my son. I don't know what to do. Could you please just leave? Please leave us alone." She does that next night. Son sleeps all the way through, totally fine. A couple days later, friend, her son starts waking up. And she says, "Yeah, is he waking up?" She goes, "Was it at 3:16? Yeah. So, trying to figure out what to do, they figure out to ask her to move downstairs. There's a couple of junkies living downstairs. They figure they wouldn't even notice. So they ask her, "Can you please come downstairs? You're bothering my kid. I don't know what to do. Please just leave us alone." Moves downstairs. Everything's fine. Nobody complains. However, that apartment remained unoccupied for about 8 years. Tenants would come and tenants would just leave within weeks. They'd be just uncomfortable. And this is in Brooklyn. Everybody wants to. That's cool. And but they just can't keep people in the place because they can't deal with the feeling of it.
So the moral is ghosts are generally cooperative with their hauntings? Is that what you found?
What I heard and what I have a friend, not really a friend anymore, who is age, and he claims that doesn't believe in ghosts, but he always talks about them as terrifying. And he's also obsessed with Korean and Asian horror movies. His theory is that ghosts in America and in Europe, they'll bother you and will frighten you and generally leave you alone. But ghosts in East Asian cultures will just fucking kill you. And talk to some people who have lived in Japan or from Japan about it, and they talked about these ideas of that the honor and the guilt is so strong in the culture, and there's a lot of I'm not sounding like a white asshole here, generalizing grossly.
Living
Oh,
white
well.
asshole. Yeah.
Yeah, living asshole. But just the idea that people really hold on to things, like you on the grudge, hold on to things and get older, and they don't let go, and the ghosts become much more angry and dangerous. I've never seen a ghost, I've never experienced a ghost,
Yeah.
nothing.
It's a topic of fascination for you, though, it sounds like.
Yeah.
I mean, how did you get into a conversation about Malaysian ghosts?
Because I was friends with this guy and I lived with this guy
Yeah.
who, just wouldn't shut up about it.
Okay.
He was completely obsessed and he claimed to not believe in him, but, not a day went by